So, imagine for a second that you are dropped right into the middle of this sprawling, highly complex foreign city.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
You have the most detailed map in the world in your hands.
Yeah.
I mean, it shows every street, every alleyway, every little elevation change. You know exactly how to navigate the physical space.
Right.
But there was one glaring problem. Nobody ever told you where you're actually supposed to go.
Oh, that's a nightmare scenario.
Right. That feeling of having all the mechanical know-how, but absolutely zero destination, that is the exact tension at the heart of philosophy's oldest puzzle.
Which is basically, how should we live?
Exactly. And welcome to the final deep dive of our Introduction to Philosophy series. This is episode 10, and today we are tackling that exact question. How do we find the destination?
It is the perfect way to wrap up the series, honestly.
Yeah, and we have a massive stack of sources today to help us figure it out. We're pulling from ancient Greek thought, so, Aristotle, Epicurus, the Stoics,
The heavy hitters.
for sure, but also modern existentialists like Sartre and Heidegger, and even contemporary thinkers like Terry Eagleton, John Cottingham, and Christopher Hamilton.
That's a lot of ground to cover.
It is, but our mission today, as you're listening and learning with us, is to synthesize all these incredibly dense texts and decipher what it actually means to build a life of wisdom, character, and meaning.
Right, because before we can even pull out that map you mentioned, we really need to clarify what the ultimate goal actually is.
And I think the default assumption for most of us is just, well, we are all chasing happiness.
Which is exactly where the confusion immediately starts. I mean, we naturally equate living well with just feeling good.
Yeah, like if you're experiencing pleasure and avoiding pain, society basically tells you that you are winning at life.
Totally. But ancient philosophy vehemently pushes back against that equation. They actually drew a hard line between two concepts that we constantly match together today, hedonia and eudaimonia.
Okay, let's unpack that friction, because those are big terms. I mean, hedonia is pretty self-explanatory, right? It's just the pursuit of pleasure and avoiding pain.
Right, it's where we get the word hedonism.
Exactly. But eudaimonia, that one is a lot heavier. It translates more closely to, like, human flourishing or functioning well over the course of an entire lifetime.
Yeah, it's a completely different metric for success. It fundamentally changes the timeline of how you evaluate your life.
How so?
Well, modern society treats happiness as this fleeting physiological state. You eat an incredible meal, your brain releases dopamine, you feel happy.
Right, very right now.
Exactly. But ancient thinkers viewed eudaimonia as the sum total of a complete self-sufficient life. It wasn't just a passing emotion. It was like an objective evaluation of your life as a whole.
Oh, interesting.
There's actually this classic thought experiment in our sources from the philosopher Prodicus. It's called the choice of Heracles.
Oh, I love this one.
Yeah, so Heracles comes to a crossroads at the very start of his adult life, and he's met by two women. One represents vice, or pure pleasure.
Right.
And she offers him this life of just easy gratification, endless consumption, luxury, zero friction whatsoever.
Sounds pretty tempting, honestly.
It does. But the other woman is virtue, and she offers a really harsh road. It's full of effort, struggle, duty, but she promises that through all that friction, he will achieve genuine worth and a deeply anchored self-respect.
Right, and the intuition there is that choosing pure pleasure is actually a trap. I mean, thinking about it, chasing hedonia is basically like trying to survive on a diet of pure junk food.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Yeah, like it tastes fantastic in the
Yeah.
moment, right? It hits all those evolutionary receptors in your brain, but it just doesn't give you the nutrients to actually function.
And eventually, the biological system just breaks down.
Exactly. So eudaimonia is the balanced diet. It requires massive discipline up front, but it builds a sustainable, healthy system.
And what's wild is that intuition totally holds up even when we push it to its absolute technological limit.
What do you mean?
Well, the philosopher Robert Nozick and later Julian Baggini constructed this brilliant modern equivalent to test it. They ask us to imagine a supercomputer that you can just hook your brain up to.
Oh, like a Matrix kind of deal.
Very Matrix. This machine perfectly simulates any pleasurable experience you desire. You feel the exact, authentic neurological thrill of writing a masterpiece or falling deeply in love or, exploring the cosmos.
Wow.
All from a vat with absolutely zero risk of failure or pain. So the big question is, do you plug in for the rest of your life?
Oh, my immediate visceral instinct is absolutely not.
Right. Most people say no.
Which is incredibly strange when you really stop and think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if happiness is strictly defined as feeling good, That machine is the most perfectly efficient vehicle for it.
It's optimized for pure hedonia.
Yeah, it completely eliminates all the messy, inefficient suffering of the real world. So why wouldn't I take the neurochemical hits?
Because it exposes a fundamental truth about human well-being. It requires a real connection to reality. Living well is a social, practical activity. It's not just an isolated inner state.
We want to actually do the things, not just feel like we did them.
Exactly. We want our actions to have real consequences. When you lose that friction, or when you are driven solely by the desire for the next hit of pleasure, the architecture of your life just collapses.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The Oxford Handbook sources actually illustrate this with a really devastating case study. It's about a woman named Tanya who suffers from a severe heroin addiction.
Okay.
So she has this deeply held fundamental desire to be a good mother and to care for her child. That's her core value.
Right.
But when the acute craving for heroin hits, she acts on the immediate, overpowering desire for the drug. And that actively thwarts her long-term goals.
Wow. So Tanya's situation highlights this catastrophic loss of autonomy. Hedonia, especially in its most extreme addictive form, completely hijacks the operating system.
That's exactly what happens.
She's acting on a desire, sure, but she is entirely cut off from functioning well. Her immediate pleasures are dismantling her ability to actually be the author of her own life.
And that is the absolute crux of it. If eudaimonia requires us to function well, and functioning well requires resisting immediate pleasure for the sake of long-term flourishing.
We run into a huge structural problem. Like, how do we actually do that in practice?
Right. And for a long time, modern philosophy, heavily influenced by Immanuel Kant, attempted to solve this by turning morality into a strict system of rational duties.
Okay, but duties sound like the exact opposite of freedom. How does Kant even structure that?
So he divides our obligations into perfect and imperfect duties, and this is all based on his concept called the categorical imperative.
Right, the categorical imperative.
Yeah. So a perfect duty leaves you absolutely zero leeway because breaking it is logically incoherent. The texts use a really simple example. Say you promise to meet a friend at Dunkin' Donuts tomorrow at 3 p.m.
Okay, I can picture that.
According to Kant, you have a perfect duty to be there. You cannot meet someone else, you cannot go to Starbucks instead, and you definitely cannot just show up on Tuesday.
Why so strict, though?
Because if everyone broke their promises whenever it was convenient, the very concept of a promise would cease to exist. It becomes a logical contradiction.
Ah, I see.
Now, an imperfect duty, on the other hand, is something like the duty to cultivate your talents. You are obligated to do it, but you have the leeway to choose exactly how and when.
Okay, I understand the rigorous logic there, but I have to say, it feels incredibly cold.
It really does.
Like, if I'm only showing up to meet my friend because a rigid universal law demands it, and not because I actually care about seeing them, that doesn't seem like human flourishing to me.
Not at all.
It sounds like being a well-programmed robot. It just completely ignores the emotional reality of being a person.
Well, Aristotle and the entire tradition of virtue ethics would heavily agree with you on that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. For Aristotle, morality is not just some spreadsheet of duties you grimly execute. It is about your fundamental character. Virtue is a cultivated disposition.
So it's more about who you are than just what rules you follow.
Exactly. It's about having the right emotions at the exact right time, toward the right objects, and in the correct proportion.
I like that.
A virtuous person isn't someone who just suppresses their anger to follow a rule. They're someone who feels anger only when a situation genuinely demands it, like, say, in the face of deep injustice.
So it's the total alignment of your desires with your rationality.
Precisely.
But okay, that brings us to the debate that basically completely fractured the ancient philosophical world. Let's assume you achieve this. You build the perfect character. You align your passions. Are you guaranteed a happy life? Because what happens when the world pushes back?
And this is where we get the famous rack thought experiments.
The rack,
Yeah.
like the medieval torture device.
Yeah, the very same. The Stoics took this uncompromising hardcore stance on this. They argued that virtue is entirely sufficient for happiness. Full stop.
Wait, really?
Yeah. They said if you have cultivated a truly virtuous internal character, you could be strapped to a literal torture rack, your body could be completely broken, and you would still possess a good life.
That is wild.
Because your moral center is untouchable. Everything outside of your own choices, your health, your wealth, your reputation, they categorize all of that as just indifference.
I gotta be honest, I struggle to buy that.
You and a lot of other people.
It just feels like a psychological defense mechanism against a really cruel world.
Yeah.
Aristotle's view seems way more grounded in reality. Didn't he argue that human flourishing inherently requires external goods?
He did. He said you need a baseline of health, you need resources, you need community.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Aristotle actually provides the perfect counterexample with Priam, the king of Troy.
Okay, remind me about Prime.
So Priam was a profoundly good, noble, and virtuous king. But in his old age, due to absolutely no fault of his own moral character, he watched his sons get slaughtered, his city burned to the ground, and he was enslaved.
God, that's horrific.
Right. And Aristotle looks at Priam and admits the uncomfortable truth. Despite his incredible virtue, you simply cannot call this man happy. The external tragedy was just too great.
Right, so if Priam can do everything right, play by all the rules, and still lose everything, what is the point?
It's a dark thought.
If a random tragedy like a market crash or a terminal diagnosis or just a random accident can permanently wipe out my eudaimonia no matter how flawlessly I've cultivated my character, why should I bother putting in the work?
It is a terrifying realization, honestly. And the contemporary philosopher Rosalind Hursthouse tackles this exact despair in our sources.
What did she say?
She acknowledges that the universe is fundamentally chaotic and unfair. A deeply vicious, totally selfish person can stumble into incredible good luck and live a highly comfortable life.
We see that all the time.
Right. And conversely, a profoundly virtuous person can get hit by a bus tomorrow. There are absolutely no guarantees. But given that we are forced to play this game in a chaotic universe, Hursthouse argues that cultivating virtue is simply your best bet for leading a good life.
Calling virtue my best bet feels, I don't know, incredibly underwhelming.
Yeah, it's not a very romantic pitch.
After years of discipline and character building, the absolute best philosophy can offer me is just a slightly better statistical probability of not being miserable.
Basically.
That is a really tough pill to swallow, especially when you consider that there is one eventuality where the house always wins no matter what bets we place. We eventually have to confront our mortality.
The ultimate boundary. And this is exactly where the existentialists enter the conversation, shifting our focus from the external chaos of the world to the internal structure of our own finitude.
Because we all die.
Right. Martin Heidegger actually described human existence as being towards death. And Jean-Paul Sartre famously declared that we are condemned to be free.
Okay, wait. Condemned to freedom. How does that relate to death? That sounds like a paradox.
Well, for Sartre, there is no pre-written script for us. He uses the example of a paper knife. It's designed by a creator with a specific essence and purpose before it ever even exists.
Right, it's made to cut paper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But humans, we simply exist first, we show up, and then we have to define our essence through our choices.
Ah, I see.
And without a predetermined purpose and knowing our time is strictly limited by death, we bear this crushing radical responsibility of choosing who we actually are. That's why we're condemned to it.
Wow. The philosopher Christopher Hamilton actually expands on this in a way that feels uncomfortably relatable in the texts.
What's his angle?
He points out that death isn't just a biological shutdown waiting at the very end of the timeline. We actually suffer death in life constantly.
Yes. He connects this to Heidegger's concept of Das Man, which is like the anonymous conforming crowd.
Exactly. Like, if you were listening to this right now on your commute to a soul-crushing job solely because it looks prestigious on your LinkedIn profile.
Oh, that hits close to home for a lot of people.
Right. Or if you're biting your tongue instead of standing up for a deeply held value just because you don't want to rock the boat, Hamilton is arguing that you are experiencing a micro-death.
A micro-death.
Yeah. Every cowardly compromise, every single time you let what everyone else does dictate your actions, a piece of your individual authenticity literally dies. You are letting your limited time slip away in a state of conformity.
And the whole point is that the awareness of our actual death is supposed to jolt us out of that zombie-like conformity.
Exactly.
But there is a flip side to this realization, too, because when you scale up that awareness of finitude to a cosmic level, it can actually induce a completely paralyzing nihilism.
Like nothing matters at all.
Right. The philosopher John Cottingham uses a brilliant pop culture reference from Douglas Adams's The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy to illustrate this exact point.
Oh, the Vogon constructor fleet.
Yes. So, in the story, time travelers observe early human civilization. They watch humans striving, building cities, loving, suffering.
Doing all the human things.
Right. But the time travelers know that eventually the entire Earth is going to be unceremoniously vaporized by a fleet of alien bureaucrats, the Vogons, just to make way for a hyperspace bypass.
Which is hilarious, but also incredibly bleak.
Hmm.
Because when you zoom out to that cosmic scale, knowing the ultimate destruction of everything is inevitable, all of our frantic human striving just looks utterly absurd.
It really does. That cosmic scale is what keeps people staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. Like, if the sun is going to swallow the earth in a few billion years, why does it matter if I am virtuous or if I follow my duties?
Yeah, why do anything?
But Cottingham provides this really vital contrast to that despair.
Okay.
He looks at Aldous Huxley's Brave New World.
Oh, that's a perfect contrast.
Yeah.
In Brave New World, you have a society that has basically solved the Vogon problem, right?
Exactly.
They have engineered this completely stable, totally risk-free, biologically immortal society. People are kept perfectly safe and emotionally numb by a drug called soma.
There's no tragedy and no disease.
No conflict, and absolutely no death hanging over their heads.
Right. And what happens to the human experience in that perfectly sterile environment?
It collapses.
It collapses into complete banal meaninglessness. The contrast between these two stories actually reveals the hidden mechanics of meaning itself.
Which, yes.
Our vulnerability is a strict requirement for our choices to even matter. An eternal, totally safe life is basically empty because scarcity creates value.
Oh, that's powerful. Scarcity creates value.
Yeah. If you had infinite time and infinite safety, no single decision would carry any weight. You could always just, do something else tomorrow. It is the very fact of our finitude, our fragile bodies, our scarce time, that literally forces us to care about the present moment.
Wow. So the threat of the Vogon fleet makes everything seem futile, but the endless, numb safety of Soma makes everything feel worthless.
Exactly.
The destination we are trying to map out lies somewhere in the tension between those two extremes. It requires accepting that we are fragile and temporary and allowing that exact scarcity to endue our actions with weight.
It's a delicate balance.
It is. But that shifts the burden entirely onto us. I mean, science can map out the physical universe. It can tell us we are made of stardust. It can explain the mechanics of a dying sun.
Sure.
But as Ludwig Wittgenstein observed, even when all the scientific questions are definitively answered, the actual problems of human life remain completely untouched.
Right, because science gives us the mechanics of the universe, but it cannot prescribe the meaning.
Yeah.
The contemporary thinker Terry Eagleton tackles this directly in our sources. He argues that we fundamentally misunderstand what meaning even is.
How so?
We tend to treat the meaning of life like it's a hidden proposition, like it's a secret sentence written on a piece of paper buried in the sand that we just have to uncover.
Right, like 42.
Exactly. But Eagleton insists that meaning is not a noun. It is a verb. It is a practice.
Oh, I love the analogy he uses. It's like playing jazz.
Yes.
You don't just discover the meaning of jazz buried in the ground somewhere. You generate it by actively participating in the music.
And crucial to that analogy, you rarely play jazz alone.
That is a great point.
The texts strongly warn against a very modern, hyper-individualistic illusion. Friedrich Nietzsche actually popularized this idea that in a universe devoid of absolute truth, the individual must step up as a solitary creator.
Like imposing their will on reality.
Yeah, just inventing meaning out of nothing. But the sources we are looking at today argue that trying to create meaning in a total vacuum is impossible.
It doesn't work.
No, true meaning requires reciprocity. It requires social connection, deep aesthetic appreciation, and love.
John Cottingham uses a really striking image from the poet Thomas Traherne to explain this exact need for aesthetic and spiritual openness.
Oh, the autumn leaves.
Yeah, he describes the simple act of viewing autumn leaves. If you look at an autumn tree solely through the lens of objective science, you are literally just registering the breakdown of chlorophyll within cellular structures.
Which is true, technically.
Right? You get the facts, but you miss the reality of the experience. To actually experience the beauty, the melancholy, and that profound connection to the passing of time, you have to step outside of that detached observation. You have to allow the world to actually matter to you.
You have to make yourself vulnerable to the experience.
But wait, let's look at the boundaries of this. If meaning is just a practice, right? And if we are the ones actively generating it, does that imply I can just invent any meaning I want? Like, can I walk into my backyard, Declare that the ultimate meaning of my existence is just counting blades of grass for the next 50 years, and be considered just as successful as someone who cures a disease.
That is the ultimate test of radical freedom, and the philosophical consensus across our sources is a firm no.
No grass counting.
No grass counting. You cannot arbitrarily declare that counting grass is a meaningful life. We are not blank slates just floating in the ether. We are human animals. We are bound by specific biological needs, complex psychological structures, and a deep, unavoidable reliance on sociality and rational dialogue. We have a specific nature.
So we require eudaimonia. We have to function well as the specific type of creature we actually are.
Exactly. Our individual meaning must necessarily integrate with the flourishing of others, because our very identities are forged in relation to other people.
We don't exist in a vacuum.
We don't.
Yeah.
A completely isolated, solipsistic life, even if the person claims they are perfectly content just counting their grass, is fundamentally fractured. It is completely closed off from the holistic reality of what it means to be human.
Wow.
The practice of meaning is, by sheer necessity, a shared practice.
So as we look back at the map we started with today at the beginning of the episode, the destination becomes a bit clearer.
It definitely does.
What we've uncovered from this deep dive into the source material is that living well requires rejecting the cheap junk food of fleeting hedonia and undertaking the real arduous discipline of eudaimonia.
It's a long game.
It is. It involves recognizing that while the universe is unpredictable and unfair, cultivating your character is the strongest bet you can place.
The best bet.
Right. And it demands that we stop treating death as this distant event and realize that our scarcity is the very engine of our meaning.
Without finitude, there's no value.
Exactly. And finally, it reveals that a meaningful life is an active, shared practice, not a solitary discovery.
Which leaves us with a totally fascinating and, frankly, kind of unsettling thought to walk away with.
Oh.
Yeah. Modern culture constantly bombards you with a very specific imperative. Strive for total independence.
Right. Be your own boss.
Exactly. Rely on no one. Achieve absolute financial self-sufficiency and build this fortress around yourself so that you are completely invulnerable to the actions of others.
But if all the brilliant minds in our sources today, from Aristotle to Eagleton, agree that true meaning is found strictly through our limits, our vulnerability, and our deep, inescapable reliance on one another,
then there's a huge contradiction.
Yeah. Is the modern dream of total independence actually a blueprint for a profoundly meaningless life?
It really makes you wonder.
Are we utilizing all of our mechanical know-how to walk perfectly, efficiently, and directly into a complete dead end?
It's quite the paradox.
It is something to seriously evaluate the next time you find yourself trying to optimize your life just to avoid needing anyone else. Thank you for taking this final deep dive into the source material with us today. Keep questioning the map and keep building the destination.